Hi everyone, this is Chris from Chris Watson Music, and we're continuing through my run through on my song called Drowning, and today we're going to have a look at the vocals. Now, this is more of a lesson on what not to do in Reason. When I originally started recording this song, there was I only had sort of accounted for 3 or 4 vocal parts, and as I was going through and doing the mix, I really wanted to fill it out, so I ended up adding a lot of background vocals to the song. Now, that in itself's not a bad thing, but I wasn't planning ahead for it. And I wasn't planning ahead for the sort of effects that I was going to go through and use on the track, such as the de-esser and the leveling and the multiband. So what I ended up doing was creating an absolute flustercluck in the rack. Now, this, as you can see here, is the rack for the track. And have a look at that. This is just the vocals. Now, there's obviously going to be a lot of mix channels for all the various vocals, but if you have a look, I've got EQs on each individual track. As I was going, like everything is sort of doubled, tripled, quadrupled up, and it's messy. And with a bit of foresight, I could have avoided all this and made it much simpler to do. And as such, I've made a new template for myself, which is the subject of another video that will be coming up, that kind of shows how much simpler it could have been. So I'm going to pretty much skim over a lot of the vocals on here and just show you certain bits and pieces, because a lot of it, as I said, is doubled, tripled, quadrupled up, and it makes it into a real mess. And look at the cabling. It's quite tricky to follow, and it is a lot harder than what it needed to be. There's lots of manual patching of the signal paths, where with the new template that I've got, wouldn't be any, essentially. So I'm just going to go over some of this so you can see what's in there, look at some of the channels, but I'm not going to go through the whole lot. So let's start with the verse vocals. Basically what we've got with the verse vocals is, we have a look at the back. It comes in first, goes through to the Neptune. Now that's really there just to fix my vibrato. My vibrato is a tad wide, and can sometimes get a little bit pitchy, but for the most part I'm pretty spot on. So this is really just making me sound less wobbly, to be honest. And I've got a variation of some ADT, automatic double tracking, going on here as well, just to fill out the breadth of the sound. So from that, it actually then is fed through down into the lead Vox de-esser. And this is just a factory sound bank patch. Now you can find this one, and I'll actually show you where it is. I'll bring this over. Okay, so if we go to the parent folder, hang on, we'll go through it properly. So the Reason Factory Sound Bank, into the All Effects patches, into the Dynamics, Vocals, and here's a whole bunch of vocal processing. And we've got the de-esser, lead vocals de-esser, down here somewhere, there it is. Okay, and I've also got it going through, from there it's going through to the multiband compressor, and then lastly it goes through the vocal leveling amplifier. So because I'm going through using the Vox parallel compressor, I'm not using any of the compression on the SSL mixer. I'm doing it all through here. I got very lucky. I have lucked out here. Without having to change any of the settings, the parallel compressor worked great on my vocals. Just where the frequencies of my voice sit worked really well with the parallel compressor. Didn't really have to change anything. And the leveling amplifier just doesn't have to do all that much after the compressor. It just does that final touch in smoothing out the vocals so they're a constant volume, which does make it easier to mix. So I'll just cancel that because I don't want it changing all my settings. There we go. So I've doubled those settings essentially through for the chorus vocals as well. If we go back and have a look, you'll see I've got a separate tracks here for the verse vocal and the chorus. Apart from that, they're identical. EQ settings on the SSL, the gate, everything is exactly the same. So if we have a look at those, the dynamics here, here's my two vocals. You can see they're the same. Something some people may not know, you can quite easily copy the settings between the two. If you right click on one of the channels, you can actually go copy and pick what you want to copy. In this case, for the dynamics, we'll say we go do dynamics, and you right click on the channel you want to put it to, copy, and then you go to paste channel settings, dynamics. Easy. Saves you trying to get in and control finely to get it exactly the same again. So the only dynamics I've got on here, again, as I said, didn't have to use the compressor because it's going through the multi-band compressor, but I do have the gate. I'm a little breathy when I'm doing my vocals. I get a lot of as I'm going through and recording, and at the end you'll get quite a bit of a sort of at the end. So that's just kind of to tidy that up, but nothing super fast for a lot of it because I actually like to have that little bit of breath in there. It does give that bit more expression. Makes you sound a little less robotic. EQ, it's the same EQ that we've got there. I've got a bit of a rise on it, up about 10 kilohertz to get that presence into the vocals. If we go down, you'll see that I've got the where am I looking at here? Okay, I'm not actually using the high pass or the low pass on here. This is something a lot of people will instantly on a vocal or almost any track, they'll put the low pass filter on around 80, 100 hertz to get rid of that low end. With vocals, around that 100, 120, that's where a lot of the warmth comes from. And by putting that filter through, you are sort of pulling that out. So you'd actually see down, when I get to the EQ down here and just have the EQ, I'm actually boosting at around 100 hertz. And it's a reasonable amount too. It just really does bring out that warmth, and I think it's missing in a lot of vocals that you hear recorded on tracks these days. I'm also boosting just a tad around just around the 5 kilohertz. Not much. 5 kilohertz is where things can start getting muddy and start getting overbearing in the mix. It's just a little bit, again, just to add that presence and sort of bring it to the front of the mix. A lot of the other tracks in this song are actually, I've got that pulled out at that frequency, so I don't have to give it too much there for it to cut through in the mix. So those settings are pretty much doubled up in the chorus. So if we just have a quick listen to some of these vocals, let's just go from the start of the verse.
A shadow cast along the space between where you stand and where I pray.
Okay, so you can see it's pretty bright. There's that little bit of doubling going on in there too, which sounds fairly natural compared. I think most automatic double tracking does sound a little artificial. And if we go through and have a listen to it in the sort of the space of the entire song.
I wish to be alone beside, already there, and I think I'll stay.
So what you could hear of that automatic double tracking before, you can't really hear as much when it's playing in the entire mix, and I think that's a good way to do it. I'm not a big fan of it, but I can see how it can fill out a sound and sort of strengthen a vocal. And I kind of felt like this song needed it, the vocal part needed it there. And I guess we'll have a listen to the chorus part as well, just the vocals by itself.
You can take my breath, drowning deep in you, drowning in you, drowning in your love.
Okay, and then have a listen to that in the mix with all the background vocals.
You can take my breath, drowning deep in you, drowning in you, drowning in your love.
Okay, nice big vocal sound going on there. So let's go through it and have a look at the background vocals. You can see there's quite a lot going on here. But as I said, they're just duplicates. I haven't copied the track. I recorded another take and put them through. So have a listen just to one of them. For instance, these were the original takes. So here's the mid harmony for the song.
Drowning deep in you, drowning in you, drowning in your love.
So you can hear that's going through some reverb there as well. And then we'll add the low harmony on there too.
Drowning deep in you, drowning in you, 'cause I breathe too much.
Okay, it's just a variation of the main melody plus some slightly changed lines as it's descending there as well. And once I did the original mix, I thought it needs more. It just doesn't fill it out enough. So then I added another set. And let's just have a listen to that. Actually, let's just loop it. We'll just loop it, and I'll just keep slowly adding in the different takes so that you can see how much it starts layering onto it.
You can take my breath. Drowning deep in you, drowning in you, drowning in your love. Drowning deep in you, drowning in you, drowning in your love. Drowning deep in you, drowning in you, drowning in your love. Drowning deep in you, drowning in you, drowning in your love.
You can see it adds a really nice texture there. As far as the processing on the background vocals. Okay, if we go down and try and find them in this mess. Chorus Fox Lobe. See, there's actually probably not a huge amount in some of them. They've been EQ'd to a certain extent. This is just, again, this is just one of the standard settings in the factory sound bank for background vocals. And that's it. I put it on, like the sound of it, left it there. You can see we've got slightly different EQs. Everything's doubled up. I'll never do it like this again. It's just crazy. So let's go back. There's only one other thing I really wanted to point out in the vocals that I did, and this is a great example of how sometimes something sounds really wrong, but in the space of a mix, it actually works really well. If I just unsolo all these, and we'll go up to a part here. You see I've got a part here that's called Chorus Fox Mid plus 1V. What that stands for me is plus 1 octave. And this is running through Neptune, where I just cranked it up the 12 steps. And if we have a listen, by itself it sounds terrible. Here we go.
Drowning deep in you, drowning in you, drowning in your love.
It sounds ridiculous. But in the mix, if we have a listen to it in the mix, it strangely fits in really well. So let's have a listen. And I'll turn it on and off, and you'll be able to hear the difference.
Drowning deep in you, drowning in you, drowning in your love. Drowning deep in you, drowning in you, 'cause I breathe too much. Drowning deep in you, drowning in you, drowning in your love.
Now, I'm pretty sure you could hardly hear it, but it just adds some nice frequencies over the top of all those harmonies. And again, it's, like as I said many times in these videos, it's one of those things that you don't notice it there, but you notice it if it's missing. And that's how I like to mix. The only other thing is there's some freestyle-ish vocals in the background for the outro. And apart from that, that's pretty much all there is for the vocals. Now, as I said, it's a mess. It's cabling everywhere. I'll never record like this again. And if I find out that any of you have been recording like this, I'm going to come around and slap you with a sloppy wet trout, because you can't work this way. Well, you might be able to, but I can't. So that's it for the vocals on this track. What I'll go through now on the next video is to go through and show you how I've done some of the automation in the mixing, and all other little tricks that I've done in the mixing to try and clear up the sound, because there is a lot going on.